Great thrill for us to catch up with Melbourne Cup-winning jockey in Craig Williams. Craig, always an absolute pleasure to catch up with you, mate. How are you?
Yeah, it's different times, Richo, and it's a different way to catch up. But things are good, and the family's handling this pandemic really well. And like everyone else, we're getting through it, and so far we've been really healthy and well, and it's the most important thing.
With all this COVID-19 scenario, the weights have been raised. The gun jockeys can't travel. So suddenly this jockey championship is red hot. And you and Ollie and Dwayne Dunn and Jai McNeil, etc., you look like you're enjoying this battle.
Well, it's a good battle, but because the weights have been raised, it just means that I can have one of these. And usually I get these at the movies, but because there's no movies, Buller couldn't sell any to Hoyts Village, and our IGA seemed to drop in a few, and I was pretty quick to get them, but it's pretty hard to fight in my house because we've got 6 of them, and by the time I get home from the races, I've got to usually hide them right at the back, but they're onto me right now. They know how to get chairs and get up the back, and so I at least got 2, so I did all right.
That is good. Little rivalry between you and Ollie in particular with this jockey championship, and are you noting at any time where he is in the race and where you are and where you've got him, etc.?
Well, I think that happens 12 months of the year. Damien is a great competitor, and like they always say, there's no Tiger without Phil, and we've had a great rivalry ever since coming back from Hong Kong. And I think it's great. It's healthy. But it's not just Ollie and I. We've got great riding ranks in Australia and especially in Victoria. So every time we go out, we're noting where everyone is, and I think it's great. It's very, very competitive, but there's a lot of respect out there, and you're only as good as your opposition. And you can see how good our jockeys are when we can see how they go overseas. Damien Lane is flying. He's if he's not winning every race, he's running seconds and thirds in nearly every race in Japan. He's riding out on a weekend. We can see Kieran McAvoy when he went overseas, Hugh Bowman, and even when you look at Hong Kong now, Zach Purden, Blake Shin. So we do have great riding ranks, and it's highlighted by when we are able to go and strut our stuff overseas. I'm just finishing up reading Scobie Breesley's book and realise in the last century how many Australian jockeys went over to Europe through their trade, and they just didn't win big races. They didn't just fly in and fly out. They were champion jockeys over there, and Scobie would have coffee, have tea with the Queen, and ride for her, and it's amazing to see that Australian riders have been respected, and not just now, but for like I said, for last century as well.
Your CV is so full of amazing wins, but to finally get that great win in the Melbourne Cup, was it every bit as good as you thought it would be?
It was. I've been born into an Australian racing family, so I used to write stories about it at school. Don't correct my spelling or my grammar, but we used to write stories. I grew up with now the late Travis Harrison, and we used to pretend we were our fathers. We wanted to follow in our father's footsteps, and that was just natural that we would become jockeys, and then we'd have families and little ponies, and it played out a lot different in our mind when we were young children. And I remember we used to steam up the bathrooms and think that was a sauna and think it was fun, and then we realised that saunas are not fun, and losing weight is not fun. And I guess it was always our dream to be jockeys, and we were given that opportunity by our families and their background and their love and support. And then so we always dreamt about winning our greatest race, the Melbourne Cup, and win championships and ride for, back then it was Colin Hayes and Bart Cummings, and we were both stable riders for one or the other, and we'll dead heat some races, and he'll win one and I'd win another one, and it was just basically as we dreamt. And now luckily enough that we were both able to live our dream at the start, and unfortunately we lost Travis, and I've been able to continue on, and through all the support I have around me and from my family's upbringing and their non-dying love and support, then I'm lucky enough to be able to live my dream. And one of those was to be able to represent Australia and travel overseas and learn a lot from overseas, and not just about the racing, but also meeting the people and their cultures. And I've been really honoured and proud to be competing overseas and representing Australia at the same time.
So when you build up this race, and it was the one thing that was missing on your CV, you became only the 8th jockey in Australian racing history to win the Grand Slam. That unbelievable day, is it so fresh in your memory still?
Yeah, it is. When I watch it, or when I watch the replay, or hear Matthew Hill's call, even the hairs on the back of my neck stand up.
Vow and Declare on the inside, then Prince of Aaron, Raymond, Tusk, Finch. It's Master of Reality. Vow and Declare up on the inside. Vow and Declare, Prince of Aaron is lifting late with El Paradiso. Master of Reality just in front. Vow and Declare kicks. Vow and Declare's won it for Australia. They're on top of the world.
The stories are made so special because of the horses. Now, not only there's everyone wants to win the Melbourne Cup, and you said that was the one that lured me from the 4 majors that we have here in Australian racing. So I really wanted it badly, like everyone. And then to do it on an Australian horse, Australian-owned horse, Australian-bred horse, which has been quite hard in the last decade. So there's a lot to like about it. He did it from an outside barrier, and he did it by that far. So as a team, from his training operation to himself and my partnership with him, we were able to win, what we would call the race that stops our nation, but now is a targeted world event. So it's very special, and people around the world that have helped me and supported me. I was definitely on the phone to them when they were up, and they said not everyone stayed awake at that time in the morning, but they all got up and saw the results, and they were well pleased. So it's very special, that race. And I remember one of the journalists asked me pre-Melbourne Cup and said, you've had a great carnival, great career, and what it mean to win the Melbourne Cup. And my comment then was that it won't define me as a jockey or as a person, because I've been really fortunate in my career and proud of what I've been able to accomplish in the saddle and as a person. And it's, so far I haven't won it. It's just another handicap. And if he asked me now, what my comment is, it's completely opposite. That I obviously had no basis of making an assessment on winning the race, because I hadn't won it before. And then after winning the race, it is everything that it's meant to be. It's not ephemeral at all. It is long lasting. It's the only win that I have that's been able to last a long time, and it's been very special to myself, my team, and my family.
That straight is so long. So everyone remembers Melbourne Cups, and we all look at it through our eyes, and whether we're backed a certain horse and the like. Describe the straight riding Vow and Declare this year, the emotions, the highs and lows of whether you thought you were going to win the race when Master Reality comes up next year. Can you describe it to us?
Well, the first part of the straight was probably helped us get the second part. From an awkward barrier, we ended up getting into a really nice position. And he felt like he was just cruising. He was looking at all the crowd, and as they were looking at him. Once he got there, he was able to switch off and relax and get a nice lead. And then, because of my experience on him in track work and in the Caulfield Cup, I felt that we didn't have the acceleration to go. And because we had an easy enough time with no weight, then it's important that we started to make the gallop for him rather than being out sprinted. And as it turned out, we got into a lovely position from the 1,000 metres onwards, and then continued up the inside rail. And I tried to apply pressure from the 800 on him, because I'm very solid of his staying ability. But Master Reality went straight past me. He just put 2 lengths, maybe a bit more on me, or maybe 2 lengths at the top of the straight. And I thought, oh, well. And I remember just going back to the basics and thinking, well, just keep him balanced and keep urging him along and see what happens. But at that stage, it didn't feel like it was going to be our race at all. I was still not mindful, but I still had the feeling that after the interference that he received in the Caulfield Cup, and after that he was able to pick up and get going again, that we could still keep galloping. But it wasn't a matter of winning the race or not winning the race at that stage. It was more about just working with him. And we were in contention, and to be in contention in that marvellous race, the second lap is still a great feeling. And I remembered actually going back and sitting back down on my heels and getting back into my seat and just encouraging him to go. And then all of a sudden, as the post looms at the 200, then all of a sudden then we've joined the leading horses. I could see there was Michael Walker out wide, maybe another one out wide again, and there was a couple other horses challenging, but they weren't getting away from me. They weren't dropping me. I wasn't dropping off, but they weren't getting away, and I wasn't really increasing much. And then I could just feel something behind me coming. Oh no! And then And all of a sudden, I would have said the last, say, 20 or 30 yards, I'm thinking, wow, I'm in a head-and-head tussle with those horses. Master Reality is starting to come back and weaken, and those horses wider than him have not gone on with it. So all of a sudden, I felt like the last, say, 30, 20 yards that we're going to be at a head-and-head tussle, and my horse was still building, and it was still quite exciting. And I just kept urging you, and I could just feel, and I could see out the corner of my eye this other horse coming, or a shape coming, and I could feel it was coming fast, and the post wasn't coming fast enough. It was like, oh, and all of a sudden, I remember getting hit and felt the pressure, and it actually spurred Vow and Declare on, and all of a sudden we went bang, and I went, oh, I just won the Melbourne Cup, and it was quite special. Yeah.
I've just won the Melbourne Cup. Can you then describe, I mean, it's something that I've heard other jockeys like Glenn Boss say, if you could bottle it, you'd be multi-millionaire. Can you describe that next minute or 2 minutes before you talk to anyone, when it's just you and the other jockeys and you and the animal? Can you describe that feeling to us?
Wow. Elation, because it's what you work for, it's what you dream of, and I don't know, it's special, very special. I teared up under dark glasses, so I thought that would be good. I was a blabbering mess in the interview, and but I tried to make the most and really absorb it, but I ended up just getting emotional. So I don't know if that was the best way, but it's definitely not ephemeral, and it's something that's really special for myself, my family, my team. And what makes it that special is people. The people make it special. When even now, if I walk up a street and haven't seen people, they just come straight up and say congratulations for the Melbourne Cup. And I'm thinking about the 3 or 4 I got beaten on yesterday rather than that. And that makes you feel really special. It makes you feel really special that you can win our greatest race. So yeah, it's good.
Last thing we want to do is ever retire you, because you're so brilliant for the sport. But when that day does come, we lose you to the sport, or will you do what your dad did and made a transition over to being a trainer? Have you started to ever think about what's next for you?
Well, it's an interesting job, jockeys. We rely heavily on trainers, and we usually don't get on. If you win, they're happy, and if you don't, well, sometimes they're still not happy when you win. But anyway, we had that discussion this morning at track work. But so we've always had that it's a bit of a give and take. Trainers aren't happy with jockeys, and because we only get on for 5 minutes, and they've been working for 5 months on the horse, and the jockey gets all the accolades, and the owner likes to give the jockey a thank you very much, and the trainer gets nothing. So we always had that banter, because my dad never lets me stop hearing about that. And so I'd say I don't think I'll go the dark side. I was talking to a rider this morning, and he suggested he'd like to go, and he loves all that, and that's why he's been going to a lot of different stables. But for me, I love the idea of being able to manage a horse. So it means I can manage my sleeping better, so I can stay in bed a bit longer. But I like programming horses. I've always enjoyed that part of it. So I'd like to maybe manage horses. And training, no, I think it's too hard. The perfect scenario is, like everyone says, a beautiful boutique stable, not too many staff, not too many headaches, not too many horses, not too many owners. But I don't know. It sounds too hard for me.
Oh, brilliant, mate. Hey, mate, we love you. Just keep doing what you're doing, mate. You're a breath of fresh air, and you deserve to be a Melbourne Cup-winning jockey. Great to chat to you. I can only say that because my dog's not in here snoring and fluffing. So. See you, buddy.
Good to see you, Richo.